you can look at the Dreamcast as kind of like the last retro console.
That's how I do it. I know people always have the sliding scale of what's retro. I personally don't at this point. I just don't. I don't, honestly, maybe because I didn't grow up with it, I'm never going to look at the PS3 as retro. I don't care if I'm 50 years from now. I'm never going to look at it.
I mean, it's going to be, but I just think in terms of...
In terms of technology...
I'm not even talking about, like... I'm not even talking about, like actual age, but I'm just talking like how games were perceived, how games were marketed, and that's the whole feeling around video games. I feel like the Dreamcast was the last system that had that PlayStation, Super Nintendo type of
and
feel
I always
to it.
say it was the last system that its games were featured in the arcade.
Yeah,
that to me defines it as retro.
Sure,
because of that. I know some people got on us about when we talked about where retro gaming is going to be, where retro game collecting is going to be in 10 years, and how people were like, oh, the Xbox and PS2 have some great games. You guys are just, fanboys. It's like, they're like, oh, gaming didn't end with the Super Nintendo. That's not what we said. What we're saying is the games from that era are not having the same impact, are not going to be as remembered the same way the Nintendo games, Super Nintendo, N64 even, and even Atari were, in setting up what video games were.
The type of collecting and the reason for the collecting is going to be different. Yes, there's always going to be collecting, but no, I don't think it's going... Yeah, I mean, that's all we were really trying to say. It's not going to be the same.
We didn't say there's no good games on the Xbox or PS2. We didn't say that at all.
No, I have a stacks of good games for those as
what
well.
We're saying is
PS2, but...
the collectability, I think, is going to be vastly different than just... Of course, are people going to want it? Are people that were 3-year-olds that had the PS2 going to want to go back and buy the games? Yeah, that's probably... Is there going to be a fervor for getting PS2 games as NES? Never. I don't see that.
With the NES, roughly 750 games, people who want the complete set, you get the good with the bad, you get the sports with the good action in the RPG, because it's just how you complete a set. We're not talking about systems that have sets that are just... I mean, even though you could get most of those games for cheap, beyond most people's ability to store or even want that much, I think.
Sure.